The Unison has requested to keep items 9 and 10, so I propose to call Mr. Burgess when we get to those items. Okay?
Can I just say, looking at the front, sorry, go backwards. The council on the committee, they're not there, Barry. The Chris Cornelia comes from all council.
So you are first of all? No, not yet.
Yeah. So
why?
And you've been on it for a while. I've got apologies, council, because that was just an omission during the agenda.
We'll make sure you're on it next time.
We have been bits with
As long as we've been on it for years.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, next up to agenda item 7, recruitment and retention, and members is going to lead on it and then take questions.
Thank you, councillors. You will recall back in March of this year, the council agreed to introduce a unified pay for all council staff, reflecting the 1st of October, and as part of unifying awards, there was agreement from this committee to develop 2 schemes covering recruitment and retention. And these should be brought back to a future meeting of this committee for ratification. Here we are with the 2 schemes to remind the committee recruitment or retention payments are paid in circumstances where we have market pressures which would otherwise prevent us from being able to recruit staff or retain staff. Recruitment and retention payments are paid where these adjustments will allow us to recruit. Just to remind the committee, the majority of recruitment and retention payments would be around social care staff, where we have difficulty recruiting and retaining. There are very few issues elsewhere, so we have small numbers of that. We do not expect that to change. In terms of the scheme itself, we have 2 elements to it: short-term recruitment and retention payments, or long-term. Short-term is as it is, where we expect those issues to be resolved within a year. Long-term is where we have an issue where we expect it to be longer than a year. But again, those are reviewed on a regular basis. The intention is to bring out reports back to this committee in October of next year, so that the committee can know where these payments are actually being paid.
Any questions?
It's just a very slight techie one. In the unlikely event that you have an existing member of staff who did apply for a post that had would they still receive that if it's a hard to replace?
Yes, they will.
And just welcome the fact that it's being reviewed biannually. There have been periods historically where there have been such schemes that went on for years and years, actually. So I welcome the fact that you'll be reviewing even the long term.
Yeah, on the form, one of the questions asked is basically where's the money coming from. So presumably, if you say that one of the areas where certainly the recruitment and to an extent retention is more difficult is in social care and children's social services, if it's decided to have these payments, it comes out of their budget, does it, rather than central, even for recruit. Right. Just wanted to.
Yes, it does, councillor. It certainly comes from the departmental budget.
Any further questions? Then to agree the recommendations. Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor O'Neill.
Just one question. When the chief executive is acting as returning officer, which is a completely separate post and is remunerated differently, in Parliament, even though they may be the same person, that person is not being, should not be paid by the council at the same time that he or she is paid by the electoral authority. So can we make sure, I think we did something with Travis's contract, but can we make sure that we do the same again to make sure that they're on annual leave or taking unpaid leave of absence when they're doing the job of returning?
To the job properly. Just a couple of questions or comments, questions that come from that. The timetable is very tight, and it's over the Christmas period. I have some questions about whether that does any candidate a favour, but I just want to be assured by legal that there's no potential for challenges in that. And also in the context of that, obviously you mentioned in 5.7.2 that it's good practice to have a stakeholder panel engagement. Will you be able to fit that in the context of the timetable you've got? And if I recall in previous rounds of recruitment, the chief executive we've been looking at, we've had advice from somebody from Solus. Will you be intending to have that as part of the process?
Mr. Thomas, a different question.
Yeah, I just want the assurance that it's not going to compromise any process.
Was it just about the timeliness of the timetable?
And any potential for challenge.
Right. There isn't any potential for challenge in terms of the timetable being short. Obviously, it may mean that you don't get as many candidates, but it wouldn't be the ground for any challenge.
And in terms of the timetable being tight, yes, we do believe that there is time in the timetable to have stakeholder involvement. And in terms of attracting candidates, the time of year actually works to our advantage rather than to our disadvantage. In this particular course, because those people who might apply actually will have more time over this period rather than less time. It's strange circumstances that I do accept for that. It's not our intention to use any external consultants to advise on this. I think that would be particularly expensive of the council and hasn't proven to have any value to that. So my suggestion is we don't use that this time.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about a recruitment agency, but there have been recruitment sites involved in some, but not all.
Any further questions?
Could I respond to Councillor Moore as time now perhaps wouldn't be so much as she is? I mean, I think it would almost depend on the nature of the candidates who came forward, whether one needed the assistance of the chief officer. So I think, Mr. Lennon to take a view at that time. I mean, we have in the past had a sort of dry old stick to sitting in the corner who hasn't really contributed much. Perhaps we should be necessarily yes, but otherwise saving the day.
I think it's fair to say that the degree of input has been varied. Yes.
Definitely.
There has been some very good input from some people.
Yeah.
Right, any further questions? Is all recommendations there agreed?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That takes us on to agenda item 9, library services and information program. I propose to ask the officers to present reports and then for Mr. Burgess to come up and speak for 3 minutes and then take questions and then the committee will discuss it afterwards. So we have a number of officers with us. If you'd like to present the report, please.
Hello, I'm Cttee. I'm the Assistant Director of Family Services who's responsible for
Armstrong, Head of Libraries, Workforce and Community Engagement within Family Services.
I'm Hannah Richmond, the Libraries Manager.
Okay. This paper follows on from the agreement of the full council earlier in the year to the overall library strategy. And this paper seeks approval to proceed with the library's restructure and set the details of that out. The context for the paper is about the overall library strategy is seeking to make savings of around 2.2 million from the service, but to also keep all of our 14 library sites open. The key tenets of the library strategy are around the introduction of technology-enabled staffing, which means that we can keep library sites open but without staff. So we're able to, through the library strategy, we're able to extend the opening hours of libraries by around 50%. So that's sort of the library strategy. In terms of what that means for library staffing, it does mean some really quite significant changes in order to generate savings of 1.6 million in the staffing budget. There's some quite significant changes to staffing. So we're moving from an establishment of 114 FTEs to a proposal for 63.9 FTEs in the paper, which is a reduction of 50 FTEs. The proposals in the paper entail reducing staffing at every tier of the establishment, but the focus of the reductions are on the library service customer operatives, the library assistant staff. The reason for that is the way that the savings work is that those staff are reduced and then technology-enabled opening in those times, so that the restructure reflects that. So we do recognise this is a very significant change. It is a really difficult time for library staff, and for that reason we've been working very closely with the unions around making sure that the restructure is as well handled for staff as possible and providing appropriate support. It's too early in the process to be able to say exactly how many redundancies there will be, but we estimate it's somewhere in the region of around 20 FTEs remaining redundant. But we'll see. We're trying to do everything we can to get that number down, particularly looking at redeployment options, and we'll speak more about that if people would like. So those are the key points.
Mr. Burgess, please. You have 3 minutes.
4 minutes?
3.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Okay, let's get on with it. Barnet Unison opposes the council plans. You've read several reports over the last 2 or 3 years and we set out in detail. The council may not plan to close any of the libraries in the short or medium term, but what is being proposed will reduce their quality, accessibility and safety, and to closures in the long term. The council are proposing to cut the staffing budget by 46%. This means around 30 library workers who are now learning they will lose their jobs. These are men and women who have given years and sometimes decades of service to the people of Barnet. This is poor reward to a workforce who have consistently achieved high percentage scores in the high 90s for a good public satisfaction. Such a cull of library workers means that libraries will only be staffed with 30% of the opening times at most. The council claiming self-service machines and to a lesser extent volunteers are adequate replacements. Council relying on technology to control access to libraries. People swipe library cards through an automatic gate to gain access during these times. But under 15-year-olds unaccompanied by an adult won't be able to do this. So young people access to libraries are being severely curtailed. Leaving libraries unstaffed will put those using them at risk. Monitored CCTV with response time of 30 minutes is not sufficient replacement for having staff on site who can prevent incidents escalating and can respond immediately to emergencies. But not only are human assets of the libraries being lost, the physical space too. Barnet libraries will lose between 15 to 90% of their space. Means fewer items to borrow, less space for computers, less space to host events such as story times or author events. The people of Mill Hill, East Barnet, South Green and Shards Hill will not even have the limited access library service available in the rest of the borough. Their libraries are to be handed over to voluntary groups who will only be obliged to open 15 hours a week. The council justified the wrecking of the library service by claiming they have to save money. The intention to reduce the library budget by 1.6 million by 2020. Yet the council originally allocated over £6.5 million to restructure the library service. Recently we've learned that £14 million are to be spent on library procurements in the next financial year. This is a lot of money to spend on reducing the asset's efficiency, accessibility and safety of the service. These changes will lead to a decline in use. Why would you use a library that won't have books you want, where there will be no help available, not enough computers available, no room to sit and study, and where you will feel unsafe? Barnet Unison hopes that this decline will not be used as an excuse by the present administration to close libraries a few years from now on. Instead, we ask the Council withdraw the plans for restructure, engage in real consultation with library staff at all levels in order to provide a library service fit for the 21st century. And perhaps we could set a target for senior officers to make a saving in the agency and consultancy budget, which year on year would deliver the savings for the library service, and we could have a proper library service for the agency.
Any questions to Mr. Burgess? No questions to Mr. Burgess? Okay.
Come on.
Right, any questions now to the officers?
Thank you, Chairman. Can I ask, on the new proposed staffing structure or management structure for the libraries, which role will coordinate the relationship between the council and the community libraries? I understand community libraries have had a number of bids and will be announced soon, if not already. Who will manage that relationship?
So you're right, we have had a number of bids for the partnership libraries, and we're hoping to make an announcement in the next few weeks about progress on that. In terms of the specific role, I think Hannah, you can give detail.
So there will be there are two new posts within the structure, library community engagement officers, and it will relay a role to liaise with the four partnership libraries and the organisations on a day-to-day basis. So there will be the people principally who will be providing training support, guidance on policy and procedure, those kinds of things. From a contract monitoring perspective, that will be the responsibility both of myself, the libraries manager role, and the operations manager. So that will be a senior management responsibility.
And then in terms of the transition between obviously when it's announced relatively soon and then, what sort of training or getting them accustomed to the library, what will be the programme between now and I think it's April when it's meant to start?
So we're working on the detail of that now, but we have a series of training sessions penciled in for those organisations that they need to get started, and we will get those as soon as the library community engagement officers have been appointed and those roles have been confirmed. We will seek to get those people in post early before the 1st of April in order to start building the relationship with those organisations and beginning to help them transition to be able to take over from the 1st of April.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
I've got two questions at the start. The staffing restructure, I think it's fair to say, you effectively said it yourself, the brunt of the cuts are in frontline staff. And those staff clearly have performed a particularly important function in libraries in terms of advice and help and guidance and encouragement. It would appear to me that we run the risk of losing a lot of experience through this process. How do you think the current structure, the proposed structure, will actually replicate that? Is it going to be able to give the kind of service to library users throughout the week in the way it has been in the past? And if not, do you admit that will damage the user experience within libraries? And while I've got you just doing that, obviously you've got a situation where library staff are going to be moving between libraries. What are the implications of that? Travel, the time, and either cost or efficiency of being able to travel? Because the libraries are not always the library are travelling between, not always on the most obvious public transport routes.
So I'm just going to start with your first question, and I'll hand over to Hannah to give a bit more detail on that. I think the first answer around sort of loss of experience and it being different is firstly making £2.2 million saving is a significant challenge for us. I think we've been sought to be quite innovative to be able to find a model which keeps all the library sites open but does also deliver savings. We're also going to be in a position where we're actually extending the opening hours for residents, which I think in the consultations we've done with
Not give money to the RAF museum, you could
in the
create
consultations we've done with residents,
at
that's been something that
£800,000.
sort of a number of people have really welcomed. So I think that's something to offer.
You could stop spending £20 million a year on
I think on travel time, I think we have thought really carefully about this, but let give Hannah a chance to give you some of the detail on that.
So in terms of planning the timetable, the opening hours and the configuration of libraries, so which libraries are in which locality together, we've thought very carefully about how we can make sure that those travel times are as short as they possibly can be. They've all been factored into the opening hours so that we know that we can get people between sites to make sure that they have their lunch breaks, all of those kind of things that are necessary. And we've planned them via public transport, not via limousines that people drive between sites. So we're confident that the timings will work. Obviously that is a big change for staff. In terms of, just to follow up with what Duncan was saying in relation to trying to make sure that we do still keep the quality of service that we have. We've had quite a rigorous selection process that we've been through as part of the restructure, and I'm very confident with the staff that we've provisionally appointed to those posts. We have retained quite a wealth of experience within those people. We have, for example, retained within the new structure the service development librarian team, which is the kind of pool of professional service staff that we have within the service, and who look at future development and have their tentacles out within the professional network to make sure that we're continually developing and trying to reflect best practice across libraries, across the country. So we are we're doing the very best that we can to make sure that actually what we can deliver within those times is as good a quality as what we have now.
Can I might have something else? I think we've rehearsed on a number of occasions the issues around safety and access, and I think many of us will still have some concerns about technology open hours. But it is hard not to reflect actually on Mr. Burgess's comments about the erosion, because there is a concern about the sorts of library provision that we will have and whether that will attract the numbers of users that we have currently, whether it will provide the kind of service that helps and encourages people to be readers and followers. And I do fear that we may be looking at the beginning of the death by 1,000 cuts, but the proof of this is going to be in the implementation, I guess.
Can I just ask you, how are you going to judge whether this is a success or not?
Good question. Probably by the next election.
Well, I think one of the first things that we need to do is we've got a pretty ambitious timeline to meet in terms of the number of changes that we're making to library sites. So what we're focused on at the moment is the go live of this around the 1st of April. As you know, there's an extensive capital works programme which has been undertaken alongside this. So the first successive measure for us is getting that on timetable and meeting that, and successfully moving through this restructure and maximising the amount of redeployment for staff is really important to us. We're doing a lot of work with HR to facilitate finding new roles for people where we can. So those are some of the things that we're focused on. I don't know if you want to add anything, Hannah, about the library specific perspectives about service quality.
I think the success measures will be the same in many respects as they are now. So we will be doing our very, very best to make sure that actually usage is maintained and that we develop new audiences. One of the continue to work to develop those usages. So things like issues, visits, members, all of those things that we measure now, we will continue to measure, and they will form part of.
How will you measure the effect on literacy of children?
Right, just following up on that. You see, the first part of the answer I wasn't surprised. Obviously, there's the success in saving the money and in getting the building works done and so on. But that is not, the end product of that isn't a good library service, it is balancing the books, which has to be done. And try and get your idea of what is a good library service and how this restructure will move to that position. Now, yes, some of it is football, book usage and so on. Is that how you think people will judge a good library? Because people use libraries for many different reasons, and some of those, it seems to me that the restructure will stop the library being able to perform that function, the use of reference, the signposting, and those sort of abilities. So what I'm going to, yes, I can see how it might make us savers. Yes, I can see that libraries would be small. All the things that we disagree with and will continue to disagree with. Okay. But surely for a success criteria is also some sort of satisfaction that users get from the library. And how is that going to be judged? Because as I say, people do not go to the library just...
Yeah, so I think the point that Hannah's made around how the things that we measure now, we can continue to measure, and we conduct annual surveys of library user satisfaction. We will continue to do that. We can look at footfall, we can look at resident surveys, and we'll continue to do that. But I mean, the broader point here is about, you asking what's the vision for the future of the library service, and it is about a service at the heart of the community. When we consulted with residents about the options to take forward here, we were faced with very difficult choices about how we make savings, and what residents said was what they really wanted was to keep all their library sites open.
Libraries, not buildings.
And that's what this
It's
does.
not what
I
library
think,
staff fact.
and the link to what residents want from their library service is about having their library service open and actually open for longer. It feels to me that we're doing something quite innovative here, and I recognise that it's not a straightforward proposition, but I think Hannah and the team are really passionate about the library service. We have retained the core library service development staff who are about keeping a professional ethos within the service.
There won't be any professionals left. You've sacked them all.
Well, I think the point I'm just making is we're keeping the professional part of the library service to plan the events. There will still be the same services provided in shorter time slots, but still provided as they are now. So this is a bit about trade-offs and about how we make the best out of a really tough challenge for the service. That's what we're trying to do.
I think really, Councillor Ward, it's a political answer. It's a great achievement to keep the libraries open.
They're not
libraries.
Joking.
And
they're
that's
not
a big
libraries.
achievement.
The second one is closed, you know that.
To close them.
Yes.
That would not be
Stop
acceptable.
wasting
And
money
the
on other
example
things.
of Free and Barnet
Totally
and
Free and Barnet.
Suburb Library are both there as successful
They're not
community
You
libraries.
toy
It can be
libraries.
done.
You
And
can't
we
close
will
it
do
because it's too
The
much
city
toy.
has
It has
plenty
staff and
of
stuff.
time
They've
for
been wanting to close that
libraries.
for 25 years.
Excuse me, can the officers please tell me, you mentioned the figure of 21 full-time staff. How many of those staff will actually be under threat of losing their jobs?
They've got
And
news
also,
this morning.
if
should
they
know
are
that.
under threat, what are you doing to help them?
Nothing.
So our forecast for the number of redundancies is 21 full-time equivalent with around 25 individuals. That's our forecast, but the recruitment selection process is not finished yet, so we can't give the final number yet. But in terms of what we're doing, we're working really hard with our HR colleagues to seek to redeploy as many library staff as we can. And it might be helpful, Hannah, if you just give a bit of detail about the kind of work that we've been doing, because it is sort of quite extensive.
Yes, so all of the people who are still at risk of redundancy, they're all on the redeployment register, so they receive every vacancy that is available within the council, and they have to be seen first before anybody else. We have filled all of the vacancies within the structure with people Jonathan said, we're working very closely with our HR business partners, and we've got a dedicated resource for the restructure who's been working quite hard with other bits of the business and other associated entities such as schools and partner organisations to make sure that the vacancies that come up within those bits of kind of Barnet establishments are available to library staff to apply for. We've also made available interview skills training for the library staff who express an interest in having that training, as well as one-to-one training and managing change training for them as well. So we've been trying to equip people as best as we can, both for the selection process internally, for the internal vacancies within the library service, but also to position them as best as we can for any vacancies that are external to them.
Thank you.
Can I just bring up what I find, and it may be that the leader may want to answer this, it's not just about libraries, but what we got is spending money restructuring the libraries, making them smaller, doing stuff. Do you need any other document? It's for the hubs. No spoke, the hubs everywhere, health, community hubs, family centres, adult hubs and so on. And one thing was bizarre that we spend, I think it's 2-point-something million on making libraries smaller. We will then have money set aside somewhere else to make other things bigger to become hubs. So it does seem to me that it's almost as though once it was decided to go down this route, the libraries were put in a silo to sort out their accounts and their money and the savings by themselves. Was any opportunity looked at to whether, say, DWP are closing offices, they're going to need places? You know, it just seems that you've gone on a track quite early, and you're spending money on making a public building smaller and less effective. And I can see that we're going to end up having things come back, not to this committee, to other committees, to spend money on trying to make other buildings bigger and use as community hubs and family centres and centres for adults and maybe more dementia cafes. And you've actually loses an opportunity for making these community hubs. Still have a library at the heart of it, but could have been far more innovative about how we use the building. Now, we've gone past that stage because, planning applications go in and so on. But I wanted to comment, I think this has been a wasted opportunity to revive the libraries as the heart of a bigger operation within those buildings. So, my overall feeling is actually one of sadness that we missed that opportunity.
I don't think it has been lost, actually. I think that, there may be space available for other things in the existing library buildings and stuff. The Burnt Oak Library has been a particular success. The configuration there and the arrangements there, and that may well be an example for some of the other ones. I don't see that there's no conflict.
It does overlap Councillor Raw's question with the community asset strategy, what we're doing on the art community. And if you look at some of the libraries like Colindale and Church End, we've taken opportunities there where there's developments in the area to build a modern, new library that's fit for purpose, and that, particularly in my wards, that half the library is inaccessible to anyone using a wheelchair. We're now have a fully accessible DDA compliant library. So we are site by site, we're looking at this. And if you look at the Mill Hill proposition, where the aim is at the moment, we're working with the community to try and get the civil defence building regenerated, the library to go in there, run by the community group there. So again, it's site by site, so we can't just sort of look at all the libraries at the same time, and it's too big. But that's 3 libraries I can think of our 14, and no doubt in the future things with the locality strategy with staff as well, hot desking. So we are using our assets as best as we can, and with Hendon next door. But we can't, I think we need to look at this service change now, and then move on to that in the future, but it is something we continuously need to look at.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, a point of clarification, then I have some questions actually on the same paragraph. So on page 37 of our papers, in the paragraph just above 5.3, which starts the restructure selection process, that says it's due to end in November 2016. Presumably that's an error.
No, we've had a couple of resignations, which means that the process has been slightly elongated because there are a couple of vacancies we haven't anticipated at the point at which the report was written.
Right, okay. So, now, when we talk about the fact that the total number of redundancies are unknown, maybe this is just ignorance on my part, but what are the relevant factors of which we are unaware that could affect the total number of redundancies as a result of the structure?
The extent of redeployment, basically, which I don't know if you need further detail.
I'm not sure there's much I can add, except to say we've got to the point where most of the internal vacancies for the actual new structure have been filled. So now we'll be working with HR with those individuals who were unsuccessful in that process to try to secure them employment outside of the worker service. And the final number of redundancies won't be known until the 31st of March when we've exhausted all possibilities to redeploy those individuals. So we'll now work extremely hard with those individuals who weren't successful within the internal process to bring that number down as low as possible.
So, the closing sentence mentions voluntary redundancies. Precisely how many of those were there?
Well, it's about 11.
It's 7.5 FTE, 11 individuals.
Any further questions? No? Everybody seem to agree?
No.
No. Okay. Those in favour, please show. Those against, please show.
Police attendance has gone up.
That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well done.
I'm down.
The officers introduce reports and then Mr. Burgess can sit at the table and then speak for a few minutes. So, if you'd like to introduce them and then introduce the report.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Matthew Kendall, Director of Adults and Communities.
Hi, I'm John Dickinson. I'm Assistant Director for Adult Social Care.
And I'm Karen Brown, Head of Mental Health.
Thank you. The paper in front of you sets out the outcome of the consultation that we've been undertaking around the structure of our mental health service. Currently, our mental health staff within Barnet are seconded to the mental health trust. What the paper proposes in terms of the final consultation document is to bring those staff back into direct line management of the adults and community delivery unit. And the basis of these changes is around the new Barnet enablement pathway that we've been implementing, which is focused much more on a strengths-based recovery model and a social care model of working with people with mental health issues and challenges. And the pathway, which was agreed by the Health and Safeguarding Committee in September, focuses on looking at the strengths that individuals have very much more and looking at their goals and their choices and how they're supported. So the consultation document around the structure to support that has been out for a 60-day consultation with staff who have commented on that. We had a lot of feedback. We ran sessions with staff, both group sessions and one-to-one sessions around their thoughts on the structure, and the paper in front of you is the final proposed structure for the new service, which we intend to implement from April next year when approved, and to continue through that, working very closely with the mental health trust about how we make that transition from staff currently seconded structure. The majority of those posts are vacant posts that have been vacant for most of this year now, as we've managed some of the transitions and planning that we're putting in place around the restructure. There is one post, one person at risk of redundancy through this process. We will be working closely with them over the next few months around the other options available to them to support them through that process.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Rawlings?
How many on the timetable here is this meant to be in place by December 2016? Is that suit today? Or the top of the timetable?
Yeah.
Sorry, just because wasn't there going to be comments?
Sorry.
Sorry, that's what threw me. I didn't.
Mr. Burgess.
Dear members of the committee, I'm addressing you as the branch secretary of Barnet Unison, but I'm also speaking to you as a service user of mental health services. Indeed, without the support I was given and the ongoing support that I receive today, there is a strong likelihood that I may not have been speaking to you this evening. It is also worth noting a statistic that 1 in 4 people in the UK experience mental health problems each year. I speak to you not just as a worker, but as a personal experience of using mental health services. And I also want to bring something else to your attention. I'm speaking to you all as employers, not as politicians. It is as an employer I'm wanting to address members, your staff, concerns about the proposal of this committee. I want to confirm we're not opposed to being secondment to end, and we're not opposed to the social care model. Indeed, it's something that we fully support. However, you can't not but reflect on travelling across the borough. Lots of housing developments means lots of people, which means lots of increase in population, increased need for schools, NHS provision, social services, and for mental health services. Therefore, it's our professional view that it's highly dangerous to propose cutting mental health services at a time when the population is growing. It is our view that proposed cuts to social workers, coupled with their increasing responsibilities, will not lead to a service to service users, families and carers. Barnet Unison is concerned about the model of reducing social workers and introducing assessment enablement officers. Mental health staff are already working with extremely complex and high-risk individuals in situations where you need qualified and knowledgeable staff. Currently, mental health social workers have significantly high caseloads, including the work connected to their statutory responsibilities as approved mental health practitioners. You will no doubt have been briefed about making social workers, you won't be making them redundant, which is true. And you will also be told that the new proposal to replace qualified social workers with AO will provide a better service. With respect, this is nonsense. This proposal to cut mental health social workers is driven by need. However, not the needs of the service users and carers, but by a need to make austerity cuts. I'd like to remind the committee that it was only 2 years ago I sat in this very same meeting when we had the family services restructure, where I urged caution and said that 30-day consultation was going far too quickly. I was ignored. Subsequently, that restructure, the very next month, was being overturned, and the result had led to so experienced social workers leaving, and a social work crisis in children's services. And in the 20-odd years of being in Barnet in children's social work, we never had a crisis that we have here today. Sometimes I could put, it is worth listening to Unison. But we've been here before, this model of cutting social work posts and replacing with non-professional qualified workers in adults in February this year. I can report back discussions of how's it been bedded in. Well, staff are reporting they're flying by the seats of the pants. And if you remember, members of this committee, that was also predicated on the new Capita IT database, Mosaic. Well, 10 months later, Mosaic isn't happening, is it? There have been so many false starts with Mosaic. If it had been a sprinter, they'd have been disqualified from the Olympics.
Mr. Burgess, you've got 1 minute.
1 minute, thank you very much. Yeah. Let's go back, because everything is about money. And it isn't me, it's my members who see this. You are, and I'll go back to it, and I have spoken to you, Richard, before about this. £18.2 million spent on consultancy. I'm still in a big pocket. You are paying for staff. 18.2 escalating for the last 4 years with a workforce post that is shrinking. In the last 2 quarters, we've spent £13.7 million. It looks like we could break 20 million with a reducing workforce. So I'm urging this committee to think again. We can work with our management colleagues over there. They're being fast to make that saving. I'm saying look elsewhere. Challenge the budget for agency income. Stop throwing money away as if you've got no control and drop the proposal to cut social work posts. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Burgess? Councillor Cttee.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Burgess. It was an intriguing way to start that speech, and I appreciate that the nature and extent of your use of the service is not something you want to get into in public. So maybe I can phrase this in a way that you'd be happy to answer. How would your experience have been different had these proposals been in place when you used the service?
One of the things that I'm now strongly advocating when I was a social worker, but certainly now as a service user, is the ability to have access to talking therapies. And the model that we're proposing isn't a model that would prevent that. But by cutting qualified social posts, you are placing great pressure on social workers to be able to deliver that service. Those officers over there have to say what they have to say. I can say what I want to say. But nobody in their right mind in this profession would cut qualified social worker posts and replace them with unqualified workers. They just wouldn't do it.
Any further questions?
Yeah. Part of the reason I think that's being given is that these are long-term vacancies because of the different difficulties in recruitment of staff and so on. Is there any particular reason why people, social workers, whoever, may not want to come to Barnet?
I'm glad you asked me that. I came to Barnet in 1994. Barnet was the cutting edge of mental health social work, crisis work, seeing people in their homes, social worker, a doctor and a nurse, very much not the medical model. You had at least 30 social workers across the 2 teams as we were part to closing down that street, which was a good thing, and then bringing people back into our community. It was really difficult to get a job in Barnet. You could not get a job in Barnet until literally somebody died or retired. The critical thing that happened, and I'm glad that this is reversing that decision, was that we were integrated into health. And health took over your staff and made your staff do their business and not the business that you all need to do for residents of the borough. So we're not disagreeing on that. But unfortunately what happened was that social work became marginalised and social workers became less social workers and more almost like nurses, and it became not a less attractive job to do. The other bit, which I take it everybody's read the Unison report, unsafe and unsustainable, but the one thing that I'm disappointed has been missed, and you've just passed the approval for Mr. Lennon about recruitment retention. There is a serious recruitment retention issue in mental health social work. There is nationally, but locally. The number of people, and officers can talk about this more knowledgeable than me, the numbers that we have for a 24-hour service, 7 days a week, 3 weeks, is unsustainable. And I put forward a proposal to work together to put in the same plan that we've done to try to address the issues in family services social work. That is, we need to look at recruitment and retention package for mental health social workers. That is just something that's come out of this restructure, and I would welcome if this committee would consider that.
Any further questions? Councillor Moore?
Picking up from that, obviously the recruitment and retention package issue has gone through this evening. Do you think the posts that are currently vacant would have been had there been that kind of package in place previously?
Absolutely, absolutely. The workforce that are pleased that they're coming back in, and that role, there's some technical stuff which I won't bore you with about care coordination, which is what we had us doing in the NHS. Giving social workers the freedom to be able to support residents in this borough is a positive step. So it is a positive step. If we have the right package in place, the same thing that you're trying to do to address in child protection, frontline child protection social work, You need to adopt that. Anyway, regardless of the fact that you probably will ignore what I have to say, but I mean, regardless of that, I do think that that our proposal was a positive one to help recruitment, and after all, I will keep banging on about consultancy spend.
Thank you. Any further questions, Mr. Burgess? No. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions for Mr. Smith? No?
Just following up that one. Could you give a little bit of information about the difficulties in recruitment and retention? And do you think this package would answer any of those questions about recruitment and retention?
Yes, there are some difficulties in recruiting social workers, whether that's in mental health or other parts of our social care, and that's the same in most if not every London borough, so that has been a challenge. I do think what we're proposing, our enablement model, will make working in Barnet more attractive. A lot of social workers want to work in that way. They want to go back to working in more of a social model, focus on individuals and their strengths. What we've seen through our network, which is our service which our enablement model is based on, is real success rates there. What they have there is a mixture of staff with different experiences and skills, some social workers, some not social workers. So I think this will make coming to Barnet more attractive. We will be looking as we go forward with this restructure around posts that we can't recruit into, looking at how we can use the new retention and recruitment offers, working closely with HR colleagues around what might be the right way of pitching the Barnet work that we're doing and the new ways that we're trying to work. Within mainstream adult social services, we're working on a strengths-based approach. All of our staff are going through that at the moment, learning and development opportunity, which focuses again on going back to working with an individual, but also challenges the professionals about how they work with individuals and the conversations that they have. I think that's something that is very attractive to people working in social care, and I think that will start to see us be able to attract more people into some of our vacancies within Barnet. I don't think it is just around the pay and remuneration, though that's part of it. I think it's about the development opportunities that we offer. So I think this will help us around those posts, but we still will have vacant and attracting the right people.
Just to follow up on that. I think there's acknowledgement that this is a better model. I don't think there's any doubt about that from any side. This is the way you have to work. If you're going to, it's not just about early intervention, but you start off where the person is and then try and guide them rather than make surprises. No problem. And obviously a lot of thinking and work's gone into it, and I quite like the idea of the strength base, starting off with working on positives rather than listing negatives. That's very good. But I'm a bit concerned about the whole supervision part. Because what's mentioned in here is about supervision of assessment officers. Yeah? Fine, got to be supervised, who's there? What I don't get a sense about, it always worries me when there are recruitment and retention problems. Good social work is, and good outcomes from social work rather, is almost always dependent on having good supervision, good team leaders, the way, the right questions being asked. Social work is being challenged, but within a safe environment about what's going on. And I didn't get a sense of that this necessary time built into that, because a lot of people are supervising people. Although it might dilute the dynamic supervision that's needed to make social work as effective as it can be, if that makes sense. That people are going to be caught in supervising other people who aren't social workers, and whether that time taken up isn't better used through keeping more social workers and having supervision based on social work models. I may get it wrong, just trying to work out how the time works out.
If I start the challenge and ask John to add a bit about the experience that we've had elsewhere in the service. I think what we're proposing is that there would be the opportunity for social workers who are at that rate, the right stage in their development and their experience, and that was something that they wanted to do, to supervise assessment enablement officers. We wouldn't be saying that every social worker had to do that, because obviously social workers, like everybody, will be at different points in terms of their experience and their abilities. It might also depend on the setting that they're working in as to whether they'd be asked to do that. So those assessment enablement officers would be managed by a lead practitioner or a team manager, and they may have some of their supervision come from a social worker where that was agreed with that social worker and with their manager. And that's the same kind of model that we're working across in the mainstream service, kind of recognising some of those points. But John might want to add a bit more on that.
I agree with you really to say, one of the things we've been focusing on in this department, we certainly have in the last year, is around the quality of supervision and the regularity of supervision. And Helen, John, Unison colleagues, will be aware that we've done a lot of work on that. We've done surveys, we've got a quality board which audits supervision, so it's something we're really focused on. So I think, I take your point about it diluting, I don't think it does dilute, it's well managed, and well monitored and well audited, that's something where I'm trying to come from. And we've got a lot of excellent AEOs, I think, just to say another point on John's, John's made some good points there, but we've got some excellent AEOs in the service, some of who we're training to be social workers currently, and I think they come from a wide range of backgrounds and wide range of skills. Karen and I are both social workers, we're very passionate about social work, but actually we've got some great AEOs as well. So but the supervision point is a critical one, and it's something that we're really tracking really well.
Accepting, and I've learned quite a lot about the model this evening and in reading the papers, but accepting that move back from the hospital setting into the council and the focus on social models is a positive one. But Mr. Burgess made a comment and a rational one about the rising population. I would add to that the nature of the current national economic situation and the likelihood that is, if not directly causal, there's likely to be a rise in levels of need as well. Do you feel that the structure and the post you're able to put into it will meet that challenge sustainably?
Yes, so our hope is to be working in a different way, so working more intensely with people at their early stage of their mental health issues or problems with access into our enablement service, so really focusing on helping them much sooner before they get into crisis will enable us to kind of work with people very differently. So we're not waiting for them to be in crisis and then waiting much longer to get into our services, but actually you'll be able to speak to somebody straight away and get the right support, so that hopefully that will help you to maintain your employment, maintain your home, some of those key things that by the time you get into a crisis point, if you've lost your job and you've lost where you're living, it becomes very difficult and more challenging to recover from that. So that way of working, we are hoping that we can use our resources more effectively in a different way to focus on people in early intervention. Karen might want to add a bit more to that around how we work, but that's what we are envisioning we'll be able to do as that population increases by working differently, alongside continuing to work with the Mental Health Trust, who are also restructuring and remodelling into a locality model as well.
I just wanted to reiterate what Matthew said, but also to say that it's a really positive time, I think, in Barnet and mental health services. We've been working very closely with the CCG, who have developed GP link workers, primary care link workers, that are working with people at the point that people access their GP surgery and GPs have got concerns around their emotional well-being. We're also working very closely with the third sector and the voluntary organisations, the vast amount of voluntary organisations that we've got in Barnet, through the development of the Wellbeing Centre, where a collaboration of services that are actually working together, and we're looking at the social care service, how we can link in with that. I'm really positive about the work that we've done with other services such as children and families. We're talking to employment agencies, we're talking to the Carer Centre about how we can develop joint pathways. And I think what is really exciting is I think we do some good work at the point of crisis, but we need to actually get in and work with people at a lot earlier stage. And I think by doing that, we prevent people then relying on long-term secondary mental health services that can be a lot more intensive for our social workers that are working in those services. So, and the issue around talking therapies as well, which John brought up, that will be part of the Wellbeing Centre and will be part of the early offer to people and the beginning of their journey into mental health services.
Just really a comment. I find this one very difficult. Totally agree with the direction. I think there's a lot of hard work and good work going into it. So, if you like, I support where you're going. I think this restructure will make it more difficult. So I feel I can't support the restructure, but I can support, you know, what you're trying to do. Just don't think this is necessarily the way to do it. I just thought I'd be honest here.
Any further questions? No. Keep the report screen. Those in favour, please show. Those against, please show.
There's so much good in it that we want to